All right, guys. So we are now live. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Celtics Talk Radio video chat here on StreamYard. And of course, we will be putting this video live on the Celtics Talk Radio YouTube channel. And of course, you can see the video currently on the Celtics Talk Radio Facebook page, as well as also it is being streamed on the We Bleed Green Celtics fan forum group that this team runs. So, of course, guys, we are here to discuss yesterday's game between the Boston Celtics and the Los Angeles Lakers, which, of course, the Celtics were victorious in that game yesterday, 130 to 108 over the Los Angeles Lakers. This game saw the return, of course, of LeBron James for the Los Angeles Lakers after he was out for 2.5 weeks, which, of course, made many people think that this game was going to be pretty easy win for the Los Angeles Lakers, seeing that the Celtics were going to be playing without Jaylen Brown and without Time Lord, of course, Robert Williams in this case, the real name for the Boston Celtics. And the game, at the start of the game, seemed like it was going to be headed that way in this situation, as the Celtics came out and looked like they basically didn't have no energy whatsoever. But then in the second quarter, the Celtics turned things around and came back from a 14-point deficit to only trail by 1 point at halftime before ultimately taking the lead and eventually blowing the doors open to win by that final margin of, again, 130 to 108, a 22-point victory in this case. So I don't know about you guys in this situation, but I don't know whether you can say this actually says more about our Boston Celtics or more about about the Los Angeles Lakers in this case, knowing that, again, the Lakers had basically the entire Laker roster in this game. I believe the only maybe key player that was missing in this game yesterday was Trevor Ariza, based on what I saw. As of course, I got to see the game earlier today. As yesterday, I was in Hartford for the SmackDown, WWE SmackDown, the final one before Survivor Series this Sunday. So obviously, I ended up DVRing this game, so I didn't want to miss what ended up happening. So to see the fact that the Lakers had nearly their entire roster, and yet you're missing two starters in this game, and you still ended up in a situation where you end up beating them by that margin, is pretty impressive in this case. I don't know about you guys, but I gotta say that was pretty impressive, despite the fact that we've been kind of saying throughout the start of this season that this team may not be one of the top four in the Eastern Conference this year, especially with the way things have been looking, as you've been pretty much staying around the 500 mark. You've been losing some of the winnable games, but then somehow winning games that we think you might lose. That was a pretty impressive win yesterday overall. Now, obviously, they were only up 11 from what I saw earlier today to start the fourth quarter, and obviously, we will be showing the stats to you guys throughout the show here, as I ended up putting the information down in the banners. You ended up having a pretty wide free throw margin in that fourth quarter, which may have played a role in why that you blew them out so easily in the fourth quarter. And I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people who are going to use that as a reason to say that's the only reason you won by 22 points. But when you look at the way that fourth quarter went, you guys, the Celtics' aggressiveness in that fourth quarter, I got to say it was beautiful in my opinion. But that's the type of play we need to see from this team more often. And unfortunately, we do not see it enough, in my opinion. I don't know if it's maybe because it's the way the Lakers play and the fact that the Lakers have the worst defense in the league. Maybe that was the reason why we saw that basically from the Celtics last night, and you don't see it enough against other teams. But we saw that game in this situation yesterday, that type of play from them. Jason Tatum obviously had an incredible performance last night as he dominated that game in this case. Maybe, he tried to, I guess you could say, bring out his inner Kobe, knowing that Kobe was basically his, favorite player. But I think the ones we got to really look at, you guys, and say they were the heroes last night, because if they didn't play the way they did early, we probably could have lost this game, was Marcus Smart and Dennis Schroeder. So I'm going to kick this now to you guys and get your opening thoughts, as like I said, I'm going to be putting up the banners now to let everybody see some of the stats as we keep going. So Igor, what's your thoughts as we start this show?
Think Igor might have disconnected there, so I'll just go. First of all, I think that the I think the big thing to take away from this, first of all, let's just get this clear right now. The Lakers are not a good team. That team in LA, the LA Lakers, as constructed, are more broken than my webcam is right now. And I think that, we could talk about LeBron, and don't get me wrong, LeBron James is a great player. He is great at many things. He is a categorically awful team builder. Because let's look at the teams he's built. They have the LA Lakers. That's not a good team. You have three guys that need to be in the post area to actually score effectively. You have two of the most ball-dominant players in the NBA, in LeBron and Westbrook. It's just not a good team as constructed. It was the same thing in Cleveland. Like the Cleveland Cavaliers that LeBron left were quantifiably a train wreck. If they hadn't gotten lucky with Colin Sexton and Darius Garland, that team would be absolute garbage right now. With that being said, in terms of the Boston Celtics, I thought it was a really good display from Boston. We started off badly. I think the important thing from that bad start is that we showed that we can recover from a bad start and that we can come back, refocus, and play good basketball for 3 quarters after having a rough start, because rough starts are going to happen in the NBA. There's just so many games in the season. You're going to have bad starts. You're going to have bad quarters. That happens to the best teams in history. The difference is like the great teams recover from that, come back and play good basketball afterwards. That's what we did in this case. The problem for me with Boston is we only seem to see this happen when they're playing against certain competition. It's like what we've talked about before in this show. It's like when they feel like there's a challenge, they rise to the occasion and they play good basketball. But then they just kind of sleepwalk through other games. And you can't be like that to be successful in the NBA. You can't take any game for granted, because almost any team out there, almost any team out there now is good enough to upset you if you take that matchup for granted. And that's what we see Boston do a lot, and we see them lose a lot of games because of it. Because if you haven't prepared, if you don't go in there with that killer mentality, you're going to get defeated by a lot of teams that you should be beating. So it's good that we see Boston beat LA. I thought it was a great 3 quarters. They showed great resilience and coming back. Tatum had excellent resilience. He did good with his playmaking. I know he only had, I think, 2 assists, but I think his potential assists were a lot higher. You can't make the shot for the guy, but he moved the ball well. So a lot of good from that game. But they need to do that against every single team, not just the teams they have rivalries against or the teams they view as being a challenge. They need to do that against the every night teams. Like, we'll play the Detroit Pistons this year. These other teams that we don't think of as being rivals or big challenges, they have to come out with that same mentality, same toughness, and same type of play.
Okay. It was good win last night. Without shadow of a doubt, every time we defeat the Los Angeles Lakers, it's good win, especially Lebron James, our arch rival, to say that way, rival from the last how many years since he appeared in the NBA, 2003. So the past 18 years, LeBron James can say that he was battling with the Boston Celtics, and especially Boston Celtics Big Three. And right now he's in Los Angeles, and again there is some kind of rivalry between the Celtics and the Lakers, but actually it's not rivalry as we saw during the Big Three Celtics era and LeBron James Big Three in Cleveland, to say that way, because the Celtics and the Lakers pretty much right now are not good teams. When you look at the standings, the Celtics are right now number 9 at the Eastern Conference with 8-8, 500 team pretty much. Cleveland Cavaliers number 8 with 9-8. So the Celtics are battling tied with Cavaliers for position number 8, but they have one game less than Cavaliers. Tonight they're playing in Oklahoma, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. If they defeat Oklahoma City Thunder as expected, the Celtics will tie with Cavaliers for the position number 9 Eastern Conference. Now, when you look at the Western Conference, Los Angeles Lakers are, sub 500 team. They are number 9, 8-9. So Trailblazers are 8-8, 500 team. So Los Angeles Lakers, like Andrew Vernon said, I will voice his opinion. Pretty much, uh, that. They are not good team on the paper. They were favorites to come out at from the West, but right now more and more analysts are admitting that the Lakers will probably not come out of the Western Conference because I was watching the Warriors, and ladies and gentlemen, I must say that the Warriors are playing the beautiful basketball, just like from their best days. And plus, they're missing the two starters, or a couple of them, in James Wiseman and Clay Thompson. And Stephen Curry is playing phenomenal.
Really good.
Best basketball of his career. He's practically joking and toying with the opponents for 14-2. Andrew Wiggins is playing great. Then they have the new forces. Andre Iguodala is there, and of course Draymond Green from championship years. But the new guys, the new forces, the young guys like Gary Payton II, the guard that fits well in their system. Kevin Looney, Poole, and the other guys. So Warriors 14-2, the best team, not only at the Western Conference, but in my opinion, in the whole NBA right now. It will be pretty much very, very difficult to defeat the Warriors if they are complete, especially with Wiseman and Thompson right now. Suns, the finalists from the last year, 12-3. They're playing great. They are stronger than the last year. They have the new center, McGee. If I'm correct, he's playing great. Šarić is injured currently, if I'm correct. Utah Jazz, their coach is implementing five-out basketball with strong defense, and Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, strong defense and solid offense. 10-5, number 3. Mavericks, Luka Doncic. We saw them. Nuggets, Clippers, Grizzlies with a couple of Ja Morant and Anthony Edwards, one of my favorite young players. So to conclude the story, the Lakers are total outsiders right now at the Western Conference, and they are not good team. I'm sorry to pull the cold water. The victory is very fine and is beautiful, but the Lakers are struggling. Anyway, we, like Dennis said, lost the first period 38-30, but we returned in the second period 30-23. Then we defeated the Lakers in the third period 33-21, plus 12. And finally, in the fourth period, concluded the story with plus 11. And practically, 130 and 108, great victory. Jason Tatum, double-double, 37 points, 11 rebounds, leading in points and rebounds, dominating the game. Anthony Davis, 31 points. Lebron James, 6 rebounds, and Russell Westbrook, 6 assists, led it the way for Los Angeles Lakers. Starters from the visitors, we saw Davis, like I said, 31 points and 6 rebounds. And if I'm correct, 2 assists, yes, and 3 blocks. He shooted 57% field goal, but no threes made. 78% free throws and minus 14 plus minus. LeBron James returned after injury, and he played 32 minutes, 23.6 rebounds, 2 assists. Despite he, I mean, he looked good. He shot it 62% field goal, 62.5% field goal, 10 of 16, 3 of 7 for threes, which is 43%. He he's not 100%, that's for sure, and he was minus 4. So I suppose that Los Angeles Lakers will be better by time, but it remains to be seen. No evidence of that right now. Like Andy said, they are broken right now. Russell Westbrook, 31 minutes, 12, 4, and 6. I would just say that he shot it 38.5% field goal and 25% for threes, and he was minus 12. Not good game for Russell Westbrook. Their best young player in Horton Tucker played 26 minutes and not particularly well. 2 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. Avery Bradley, ex-Celtics, 6 points, 4 rebounds. Not good game as well. Carmelo Anthony, 13 points, 4 rebounds from the bench. Boost from the bench. Malik Monk, 9 points, 1 rebound, 2 assists from the bench. Wayne Ellington without points. Rajon Rondo, ex-Celtics, 10 minutes, 32 seconds without points. Dwight Howard, 9 minutes, 32 seconds, 7 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. And Kent Bazemore with 5 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist. For Boston Celtics, without Jaylen Brown, as Dennis said, Dennis Schroeder, fantastic game again with 34 minutes, 21 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Jason Tatum leading. Dennis Schroeder shot it 57% field goal, 8 of 14, 1 of 4 for threes. That's 25% for threes, 100% free throws, and plus 12. He was not leading plus minus because we had from the bench the guys with good plus minuses. Jason Tatum, he had 37 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, 50% field goal, 13 of 26, which is great considering he took the most shooting attempts, 26 in the team. He shot it 4 of 9 for threes, 44.4%, which is amazing. 7 of 7 free throws, 10 rebounds, 1 offensive rebound, and plus 10. Fantastic game for Jason Tatum, dominating the game. Al Horford, another great performance as a starter at center because no Robert Williams III, so we missed Jaylen Brown and yes, Robert Williams didn't play. So another great performance as a center for Al Horford, 18 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists, and 1 steal. He shot it 56%, 5 of 9 field goal, 1 of 3 for threes. That's 33%, 70% free throws, 7 of 10, and plus 1. Marcus Smart, he played 30 minutes, 22 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. He was second best player at the Celtics. Marcus Smart shot it 69% field goal, 9 of 13, which is impressive. 1 of 2 for threes, 50%. 3 of 5 free throws, 60%, and plus 7. Grant Williams, he had great start of the game, if I'm correct, with a couple of made field goals. 27 minutes with 5 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. He shot it 2 of 4 field goal, 50%, 1 of 3 for 3, which is 33.3%. Grant plus 2. From the bench, I mentioned the guy with the best plus minus at the team. That's Josh Richardson. He was the best guy from the bench, and he's constant from the bench the whole season. I must say that he's justifying expectations from us and from the Celtics nation as a signing. 29 minutes, 15 points, 4 rebounds, and he was shooting 45% field goal, 1 of 3 for threes. He shooting 66% free throws, which which should be better, and plus minus plus 27, the highest at the team. Romeo Langford, another great game. I mean, great game. Solid game, but not the best. 21 minutes and 39 seconds. 2 points, 5 rebounds. I would say team effort for him, but plus 19 is telling you about his effort in the defense. After getting 16 minutes in his Kanter had 5 points and 7 rebounds and 1 assist, he showed signs of life. He shooted field goals 1 of 3 and scored 1 free throw. Second best plus minus at the team, plus 21. Maybe he should get more playing time. Peyton Pritchard played 8 minutes 33, 5 points. Naismith 3 minutes and 45. Hernan Gomez 3 minutes 45. But pretty much we played with 8-man rotations plus Pritchard, let's say number 9. Now, I would say about game analysis. 1 minute. Game summary is, like I said, field goal attempts. Lakers 46%, 39 of 84. Field goal made. The Celtics made 44 of 88, 50% field goal. The Celtics shoot it better. What is more important, the Celtics scored 5 more field goals, which is one of decisive factor. So we shoot it better from the field, 50%, Lakers 46%. We scored 5 more field goals. When you look at the three-pointers, the Lakers scored 12 of 30, which is 40%, and the Celtics 11 of 30, 11 made three-pointers, which is 36.7%. So from the three-point line, the Lakers plus 3. Free throws, the Lakers scored 18 of 24, which is 75% free throws, and the Celtics scored 31 of 38, which is 82%. So the Celtics outscored the Lakers from the free throw line, which is very important, one of the key statistical element of the game, which is plus 13 from the free throw line for the Boston Celtics. The Lakers outscored us plus 3 from the three-point line, but we outscored the Lakers from the free throw line, which is what we here have been saying the whole year. The Celtics should personally, me was preaching the last show when we were discussing the Celtics are three-pointers oriented offense. I was saying that the Celtics should base on the 2-pointers and shoots from restricted areas and to force as many free throws as they can, and they did it. They forced 38 free throws and scored 31 plus 13 from the free throw line. Assists 22 of 20, collective basketball, rebounds 51-33. We destroyed the Lakers in the rebounding battle, and we had 12 offensive rebounds and also 39 defensive rebounds. So 51-33 defensive rebounds battle is won. And final stat, what is final statistic telling us? Trying to dig out points in the paint, guys. So the Lakers had 22 points in the paint, 11 of 17 shooting in the paint. Without Robert Williams, we managed pretty fine with Enes Kanter and Al Horford at 5. The Celtics 42, the Lakers 22 plus 20 in the paint. The Celtics shot it 21-30 in the paint. We must say that Kanter and Williams and Horford did good job there, and of course Jason Tatum. Plus 20 in the paint for the Celtics. Second chance points, the Celtics 8, 3 of 10 shooting, the Lakers 9, 3 of 4 shooting, +1 second chance points for the Lakers. We didn't materialize of the 12 offensive rebounds, and we didn't use 51 rebounds properly. Fast break points, the Lakers 15 and the Celtics 4, which is giving you +11 fast break. To sum up, from the 3-point line, +3 for the Lakers. From the free throw line, +13 for the Celtics. From the paint, +20 for the Celtics. This is key statistical element, including the free throws. Second chance points +1 the Lakers, and fast break points +11 the Lakers. But that was not enough. So the Lakers, were searching their chance in the second chance points and the fast break points, but that's not enough. The Celtics did, good job defensively, except the first period, and I think that it is good win. It is good win, but again, we must not overreact, and there is not enough evidence. All of us to say that the Celtics team is healed, cured, rejuvenated, on the right track after one single victory. This Celtics team showed this year and last year they can defeat every single opponent, especially at home, which is one of virtue of 500 team. They can win every single opponent at home, especially when they are complete squad, and they can lose when they are away from every single squad. We saw that in one easy loss in Atlanta against the Hawks, which are not the strongest force at the Eastern Conference, but solid team, of course. So we can win absolutely against everybody at home. We defeated champs Milwaukee, if I'm correct, twice. We defeated Lakers. We defeated good teams, but also, like Andy said, we lost from crap teams, which is, which is showing you that we are not mature team, and we are just not good team this year. And one more thing for the end: can we just stop, please, to use injuries as excuses? Because this is not holding water for me, and it's disgusting to blame injuries. Everybody in the NBA has injuries right now. Warriors injuries list is full, every single game. There is coronavirus there in the USA, and of course mechanical injuries every single day. Lakers missed Lebron James couple of games. I didn't hear anybody else complaining about the injuries except the Celtics nation, the Celtics analysts, the Celtics. This is not excuse. The injuries injuries can be excuse, but for the extent of time, but not all the time for everything that is happening in the Celtics land. And by the way, I mean, Danny will tell you the rest of the stories. We should talk about, if you guys agree, later Atlanta game also, and a couple of bad things that are happening, of course. For example, Enes Kanter, Ime Udoka, Enes Kanter complained about his playing time, sending some political messages and that kind of stuff, but he got playing time and he used it properly. So we will see what happens on that front. Ime Udoka, Enes Kanter. Daniel?
Well, so you mentioned the points in the paint. So we have another stat that can basically intrigue you, which is Smart and Dennis Schroeder. This is coming courtesy of Chris Forsberg. Smart and Dennis Schroeder credited with a combined 26 drives versus the Lakers. Their production on those drives: 11 of 12 field goals, 4 of 4 free throws, 27 points, 3 of 6. Celtics went 20 for 27 at the rim overall and drew 9 shooting fouls, which is why I said, obviously, Tatum yesterday may have been, the one that basically looked like the Kobe Bryant of that game with, the numbers overall and bringing out his, like I said, inner Kobe Bryant, knowing how much he idolized Kobe. But you got to look at those two guys as the heroes for yesterday's game overall, because when things got off to a rocky start and the Lakers looked like they were going to blow us out of the building at the very start of that game because we came out with absolutely no energy, it was those two guys who basically kept this team afloat and kept you in the game overall until finally, the train got on the right tracks and you finally, went on the express, track pretty much right past the Lakers overall into that second half. If you don't have Marcus Smart and Dennis Schroeder playing the way they did in that first quarter in this situation and early in the second, you probably don't win that game yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, and that's the honest truth in this case, despite the fact that Tatum played the way he did later on in that game. If Schroeder and Smart don't play the way they did, you likely lose that game overall because you are nowhere near the Lakers overall in terms of points if they basically are missing all their shots early on. So, you got to give a ton of credit to those two guys in this case with a lot of the shots they were making. And again, they kept the pace going. That was another thing that, for anybody that was watching the NBC Sports broadcast, 'cause I know the game yesterday was also on ESPN in this situation, but obviously here in Boston, you got it on the NBC Sports option in this case, NBC Sports Boston, and Paul Pierce was there with Brian Scalabrine and Mike Gorman in this case, and obviously he was basically there, and we have our buddy Kevin with us now in this situation. So you had Paul pretty much saying one thing you got to constantly do to basically beat the Lakers, knowing that they are pretty much the oldest team in the league, is you got to push the pace. Off the turnovers, off the rebounds, you got to basically push the ball up the court because then you're getting them into some of the worst mismatches, getting some of the older guys on the youngest guys on your team, getting the bigger guys on the smaller guys, and you can take advantage of that. And obviously, every time the Celtics did that, you guys, they ended up basically scoring. It was only when we saw the guys basically slow the pace down and basically try to set something up that we saw the Lakers pretty much take advantage of it and go the opposite direction. And that was when you would see the Lakers push the pace and they would do the exact thing that we wanted to do to them. They would do it to us in this case, and we would be the ones getting into trouble with some of the most crappy calls I have ever seen, in my opinion. I gotta admit in this case, but still, that's the pace we need to see this team play with the rest of the season, or at least most of the season, because they're young enough to actually do it in this case. I can understand a team like the Lakers not being able to play with that pace all season long because of how old their guys are, especially LeBron James. But you got a bunch of young players on this Celtics team. There's no excuse to be basically saying, I'm too tired. I ain't got the energy to basically play at that fast pace, pushing the ball up and down the court in this situation, knowing that you just knocked off a Lakers team with the so-called best player in the world in LeBron James, everybody trying to put him now in that GOAT conversation with Michael Jordan at this point. And you did it without basically either your best player or your second best player, depending on who you're talking to in this situation, and without arguably, I shouldn't say arguably, your starting center in this case in Time Lord, somebody who everybody now is falling in love with, and it's all because you basically pushed the pace in that second half, and you pretty much drained their energy. Because look at all the mistakes the Lakers were making in that second half, you guys. If you watch that game. How many mistakes did you basically see the Lakers make where you caught them off guard? You got a lot of easy baskets. And if it wasn't easy baskets, you were forcing them to foul you because they didn't want to give up the easy basket, but you got the free throws in exchange. That was literally it. You pushed the pace. The problem is, let's say for tonight, with the Oklahoma City Thunder game in this case, which obviously I already posted it while you were talking, Igor, in this situation, but the injury report for tonight, I will post it again for anybody who didn't see it. Of course, Jaylen Brown, right hamstring strain, is out. Dennis Schroeder, left ankle sprain, is probable. Robert Williams, left knee, tendinopathy, is doubtful. And according to Ime Udoka, Jaylen and Rob are not feeling 100% healthy, so neither of them will play tonight. We're not ruling them out for the next game against Houston, and we're hopeful that they'll be ready. So Jaylen is not feeling up to it tonight, you guys. But according to what people were saying, he was desperate to play yesterday. So he was up and dandy yesterday to want to play against the Lakers, but against the measly Thunder, he has no energy. He doesn't feel up to it in this situation. So again, that adrenaline he was able to, thanks to the adrenaline, ignore the injury last night, but can't use the adrenaline to basically play against the Thunder. So Kevin, since you're just joining us, let's get your thoughts on what you thought about that game last night. Again, 130-108 Celtics over the Lakers.
What's going on, guys? How y'all doing? The game, I was really impressed on the way they played. Maybe the third quarter on. This team is not good enough to be able to turn it on, turn it off, and that's what I'm looking. That's what I'm seeing a lot of right now. They got to be motivated to play against everybody, not just the Lakers, not just against Brooklyn, not just against Philly. They got to be motivated to play against everybody because the league, if you're not looking, the league is really balanced itself out. You look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, you look at the Wizards, you look at New York, Chicago. All those teams are playing really good basketball right now, and they're coming to play every night. And that's what we have to do. And it was a really good win yesterday, but again, I'm not putting too much in it because it's the Lakers, and they're not that good of a team. I mean, you watched them play last night. They might be a 6 seed at best, for real. And a lot of people saying you got to give them time to gel. But it's funny how some people say that about the Lakers, but then when it comes to Celtics, oh, this team is no good. They need to trade this person, need to trade that person. So why is it that the Celtics can't gel? Why the Celtics is not the reason why they're not playing well? Because they're not gelling, but you use that same scenario for the Lakers, which is I don't understand it at all. It doesn't make sense to me. It's all basketball. Like Igor said earlier, you can't blame injuries on losses. And last night, as you saw, Boston beat the Lakers without Jaylen Brown, without Robert Williams. You know what I'm saying? And Jaylen Brown is probably the second best player on their team. And they beat him handily. You know what I'm saying? So my questions, this is my situation here, is that this team plays when it wants to play. And I think that Jason Tatum kind of sets the tone for how this team plays. I'm watching last night because he played with an attitude. I think the foul at the end of the half with LeBron James cussing out the referee and not getting a technical foul for that, because I read his lips. He's like, you should have called that call. He didn't make the call. And the way LeBron was high-fiving, slapping hands and all that, I think that motivated them to play a better second half. If that play doesn't happen, I don't know if we end up winning that game because they was not really motivated to play the game. I think Schrader was out there to prove a point that he should have, they let him go, so he had to prove a point to the Lakers. And I saw old team playing, and Lakers versus Celtics, regardless of who plays, what the roster is, that game has always been special ever since I've been.
Lakers
right.
full
Whatever.
roster. Lakers full roster. We played without Robert Williamson, Brown.
Yeah, this statement he making right here, I don't even believe it. he can tell it to somebody else, but we watched them play. You know what I'm saying? And that game shouldn't be the only special game for him. All games should be special for him. If he wants to be the guy that makes us forget about Paul Pierce, he needs to be that type of guy. He needs to play every game like it's his last game. And the thing about it is, Paul Pierce never had the talent around him when he first came to the league that Jason Tatum has around him. So he has help there. So overall, a good win. We needed a win like that. But again, if you're a true fan, you don't put a lot into that. It's just a win, move on. I think that when we go out to play them out in LA, that game will matter more than this game right here. because hopefully we'll have everybody healthy at that time, and we'll see, where we stand. Overall, again, I watched them play Atlanta with no emotion. There was no emotion at all against Atlanta Hawks, none. And I don't understand it. That's not Celtic basketball. You never take nobody for granted. And I'm just wondering. I'm listening to the game on the radio at some point, and Cedric Maxwell says they asked him. They said, "How often do you talk to the old man?" And he's talking about Bill Russell. He said, "Every time I see him, he gives me the number one finger." And that's the middle finger he gives him, but he tells him, you could never, y'all team's never better with our team, and Maxwell always says that motivated him to be the better player. I don't know if Paul Pierce or the guys do talk to the other players. I'm assuming they maybe do, but if I'm Paul Pierce or Kevin Garnett or Perkins, I'm challenging that whole damn team. I'm saying I'm challenging you to be the best you can be. Be better than us. Don't be like us. Be better than us. Because something needs to motivate these guys. And you're not gonna play the Lakers all 82 games. You know what I'm saying? You only play them twice a year, so you got to find a reason to be motivated to play other teams. Like tonight, OKC. Okay, let's see what type of energy they have against them. It's just one of those. I guarantee the energy is not going to be the same as it was last night. So we'll see how. But to me, overall, it was a good win for us. I got bragging rights over Laker fans right now, and I'm using it to the tilt. I keep trying to tell them. I said, "Yo, y'all the Geritol gang," and again, like Igor said, or I think you said, Daniel, that they need to be out when they play teams like that. They need to run, just run, and we have the horses to run. We got thoroughbreds that can run. So let's get out there and do that. When we get to the half court and we don't execute like the way we should, we end up turning the ball over or we get a bad shot. So overall, I'm okay. Not impressed, but okay.
And it was impressive victory. Andy, do you have something to add? I have article about injuries. And by the way, Danny is giving us injury updates. And if we, by any chance, somehow manage to lose against Oklahoma, I know what the fans and medias will say, injuries. But, I don't know what to say about that injury stuff, but I have article. So, Andy, do you have something to add about the game or what we said here?
Yeah, I mean, like I've been saying that we need to push the pace for over 2 years now. And it goes back to what I keep saying on this show. I keep saying it on the radio. I've said it on the Facebook forums. We are designed to be a small team. Small teams play with a fast pace. That's how being small is viable, because if you play slow as a small team, then that lumbering 7-foot tall big man can jog his fat butt back up the court and be positioned under the basket. And it's hard to score around a fat 7-footer. I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, Jared Sullinger could get blocks if you let him set into position, because he's a fat 7-footer. There's a lot of space you got to go around. But the point with a small team is that you push that pace fast enough that big man has to lumber his butt back up and down the court over and over again. He's basically doing wind sprints back and forth up the court, and you tire him out. He gets pulled out of the game. And then, you're playing against their second string because their team is designed with that player in the starting lineup. That's how small teams generate their advantage. And we saw them do that very well last night. We did see some Enes Kanter last night. I think that was very matchup dependent because the Lakers like to go double big with Anthony Davis, which, by the way, can we stop saying that Anthony Davis is a tier 1 star at this point? Like, everybody talks about like Anthony Davis is the best big man in the league. I'm saying, like, well, there's this guy called Jokic. There's this guy called Embiid. I mean, Anthony Davis is very talented, don't get me wrong, but we talk about Jason Tatum lacking the mentality to be a superstar. Like, hello, Anthony Davis, the guy is always sitting out injured with like different minor injuries. Like, I don't know, he stubs his toe, he has to miss 3 weeks of gameplay. I don't know exactly how that is. He gets a paper cut. Oh, there goes another 2 games. You know, I've never seen somebody who sits out injury. I mean, it's like he's trying to beat Kawhi for the most games missed out of a season due to injury, which, I mean, Kawhi still holds the record for that one, but I mean, like, come on. And then when he's on the court and he's healthy, he's, you know, we've criticized Tatum for this, but Tatum, I would take Tatum over AD because I think Tatum has the mentality where he wants to be that end of game assassin. Now, obviously, it doesn't work. And sometimes the only thing he assassinates is his own team because of all the shots he misses. But at least he's there trying to do it. Where Anthony Davis, I mean, Anthony Davis, we know because we've seen him, could dominate DeAndre Ayton during the regular season. And what happens in the playoffs? He gets, and granted, you know, you could say he was injured, but, you know, I don't make the, if you're healthy enough to be on the court, you're healthy enough to put in a full effort. That's the way I view it. But he got dominated when his team needed him the most. And we've just seen this over and over again. I don't see him as being a tier 1 star. And then you got Russell Westbrook, who is, you know, the most glorified stat pad in the NBA. I mean, granted, if you want to see a lot of triple doubles, that's the guy to do it. If you play fantasy basketball and his price isn't too high for salary, roster him all day long because the man is a freaking stat pad. But the fact is, when you look at his stats, his efficiency is usually bad. He's not a good 3-point shooter. He's not reliable on free throws. His defense is about on the same level as LeBron James' defense, which is I just don't bother because, you know, I'm famous. Which I don't understand the correlation in basketball between becoming famous and all of a sudden you don't play defense anymore. But there's definitely a correlation there in the modern NBA. So Boston's win is impressive to me because of the, like I said earlier, because of the resilience that they showed in coming back from that slow start. I thought that was impressive. But I think they need to show us that they can play that way every single night. And we need to see them push that pace. And we need to see that become part of Udoka's game plan. Like, at some point as a coach, you have to understand this is the team that you have. You have a team that's designed to play small. You need to start playing them small, which means you have to start pushing the pace. We have to figure out whatever it is that makes our 3-point shooting as inconsistent as the cryptocurrency market. You know, I just, like, there's so many things here with Boston that just don't make sense. And I think if we started to go that way of being a small team, a true small team, and we started to run the court more and push that pace, I think we would do better in a lot of matchups. Against the Thunder, I agree with you guys. I think that that's going to be a much more telling matchup because this is a team, I mean, like who's even on the I guess Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is their star player, quote unquote star player right now. And then they have what's the Kukusevsky or whatever his name is.
I will provide you information as soon as I find some of their statistical elements. I must admit that I didn't watch Oklahoma City Thunder
OKC's not very
too
good
often.
team. I mean, like Moses Brown was one of their best players last year. You know,
Moses Brown.
I think that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah. But they had good couple of games. You know, they somehow defeated Houston here. So from there, defeated Houston. Their starting lineup is Lugens, Dort,
Dort's good.
guard,
He's a good defender.
yes, Darius Beasley. If that is then Jeremiah Robinson Earl, then Josh Giddey and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So Dort 34 points on that game, Gilgeous-Alexander 15-4 and Giddey 14-7. They have some Serbian guy who supposed to be college star, but Alexei Pokuševski. So he's like small forward. I don't expect anything from him. Then they have Derek Favors. He played for Lakers, if I'm correct. You know, he's center.
He's also like Kev's age. So
yeah. Ty Jerome, Mike Muscala. He's forward from Atlanta, forward center. Nothing special. Trey Mann. He's shooting guard from Florida. Yes. And they have Kendrick Williams and Aaron Wiggins, not Andrew Wiggins, but Aaron Wiggins, guard forward. But
So I mean,
pretty
so I
much,
think we could say this is a nobody team, right? Or not a nobody team, but it's not a good team. It's not a contending team.
nope.
So let's see how Boston comes out. Can we come out with that same sort of passion and intensity and focus? Or are we going to see the Celtics that think they can sleepwalk through games that aren't important to them? I think that's kind of the question for us, because that's not a good team. That OKC team is not a good team, but they're good enough to beat you if you sleepwalk. I mean, like if you sleepwalk, just about anybody can beat you. So, and we've seen that way too much for Boston. They take themselves for granted. They think that they, walk on water, that they're a championship contending team or whatever. Or they think they don't have to try against some teams, and that's just not the case. And I think that we need to see them come out and put in consistent, strong performances against teams like OKC before we are ready to say that they fixed their issues. And as good as it is to beat the Lakers, because I love beating the Lakers as much as any other Celtics fan does, let's face it, like I said, that Lakers team is, I mean, I criticized the Celtics roster construction, but the Lakers took that to the next echelon by trying to pair Westbrook, LeBron, and AD. It looks like a 5-year-old's 2K team. So, and it probably is, because that's about the amount of basketball knowledge that the Lakers management has. So I thought Magic was bad for the Lakers, but apparently they doubled down on bad front office. They must have taken a page from the 76ers handbook. But I mean, and so as great as it is to beat the Lakers, it's always good to beat LeBron James, because LeBron is a one-man team. I mean, he builds bad teams and then somehow he drags them to the finals. So, I mean, that's impressive on him. Just imagine if he realized he wasn't a good team builder and, let professionals build his teams, he'd probably be a lot more successful. He probably really would rival Jordan in championships, because one of the good things about Michael is they kept him out of team building and it had him focus on playing the game, and he did very good at playing the game. And we've seen in Charlotte, until they got the windfall from Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier, that team was not a very well-built team either. So, I don't know. I just, I look at that Lakers team, and I say outside LeBron James, the team is really kind of not that good. So.
About Charlotte, they are looking for the center. I mean, they have talent, but obviously fighting for the playoff spot right now. Danny and the guys, I want to read the article that I agree on the Celtics Live. Author is strange. I cannot find who is the author of the article, but never mind. We need to stop using injuries as excuses for the Celtics' losses. I have noticed a trend from the Celtics fans and medias that are green. That after every loss, they are using injuries as an excuse. They are saying, we would have beaten the Detroit Pistons if we got Jaylen Brown. We would have beaten the Mavs if we got Jaylen Brown. We would have beaten the Cavs with Al Horford. We would have beaten the Hawks last night if the Time Lord and Jaylen Brown played. The Celtics were 500 team last year, and yes, they had a lot of injuries and they were devastated by COVID crash. But this season, COVID didn't disturb us yet, and the Celtics yet continue to be 500 team, 8-8 currently after 16 games. And of course, Jaylen Brown missed 8 game, and they are 4-5 without Jaylen Brown. Just saying we would have won with Jaylen Brown sounds like it should make sense, but it doesn't. And I love having Jaylen Brown on the floor every time the Celtics are playing, so this is not a shoot at Jaylen Brown. Just using example. Bill Russell, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, they were all blessed with amazing athletic abilities, but don't discount their availability when evaluating their combined 21 championships. So Russell, Jordan, and LeBron James won 21 championships. I don't believe he missed ever the playoff game. Uh, First of all, Jordan, for example, won 6 titles, and I don't believe he ever missed playoff game. His career games played, first season 84, 82, the second year 86, 18, 86 year 82, then 88 year 82. 89 year 81, 90 season 82, 91st season 82, 92 season 80, etc., etc. 95 he missed, he played 17 games. Is that the season when he retired? I cannot remember, but anyway, 82, 96 season, 87, 82, 97 season, 98 season, 82. Then he retired, and for Washington he played, after second retirement, he played 60 games and 82 again. So 13 seasons, and in Chicago, played 930 games regular season, and 2 seasons 142. So the man had one injury that sidelined him in the second season, and he played like 18 games in the second season, but he played 82 or 81 games in the regular season. So he has high availability in his career. Here is Bill Russell, our own Bill Russell. uh, you know. Um, so Bill Russell also, he played like 82 games or 80 or 81 games. So as good as those Celtics teams were, without Russell, they would not win 11 titles. Now, LeBron James has played more coddling era in the players, but he maintained himself very good. For example, in Cleveland, he played first season 2003, 79, then 80 games, then 79, then 78, 75, 81, 76, 79. Then he was injured in 2012 in Miami, 62, then 76, 77, 2015, 69, 76, 74, in 2018, 82 games. Then he is injured, but anyway, no way, for example, that the Heat Cavs get past the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2012, 2017, 18, if LeBron missed couple of games in those series. And availability is not only about the stars. What, for example, if Ray Allen wasn't available in the games against the Heat and the Spurs? If Ray Allen didn't play in the Game 7 Heat Spurs. So Tim Duncan, another superstar, that high availability. And he's not athletic as those that I mentioned. He has been available in the all finals, and he won 5 rings. It's difficult to build a winner in the NBA, but it's next to impossible to win the winner with often injured players. People always bring up Kyrie Irving's shoot VC Warriors, but never talk about all playoff games he missed in seasons that his teams came up short. On the paper, the Celtics have better team than 500, of course, but we never get the on paper team. Someone or two key players always out. That is not bad luck. That is having players on your roster that don't have high availability rating. To borrow the statistic from NBA 2K, high availability rating. For example, here is Robert Williams. 2019 played 32 games. 2020 played 29 games. 2021 he played 52 games. 2022 he played 13 games. In his career for 4 years, he played 126 games. So this is the player that is not having high availability rating. He Williams has one of the highest win shares numbers in the NBA history. Alongside the names of Jordan and James, etc., and Russell. But that doesn't mean one single thing. If we cannot rely on him to be healthy. Let me know when he plays 70 games in a season or more, because in his most healthy season he played 53 games. And of course, as remarkable and Rob is in one playoff game, he was out for the rest of the playoffs. He needs to play at least 70 games. More importantly, he needs to be available for the playoffs, or at least 80-90% of the playoffs. Otherwise, you max it out with a great regular season center, the games he plays, but you never win a title. You may say, man, if Time Lord didn't miss those 2 games, then we totally win this series. But again, that's not bad luck. That is having a player that is not having high availability rating. And I will repeat that in every single show. It is not bad luck. If Williams was to play in all playoff games, that would be outlier. Jaylen Brown hasn't been injury plagued as Williams, but he hasn't been exactly shining example on the player you can count on him every single night. And considering he's one of the team's 2 stars, it's a wrap if he cannot play all the games in the playoffs. Scottie Pippen had his issues with migraines and bad back, but just like Jordan, he knew that Pippen would be available for the playoffs, and they built dynasty there. The only 3 Celtics who have played all 15 games thus far in the season are Jason Tatum, Dennis Schroeder, and Grant Williams. So Tatum and Schroeder and Williams, those guys have high availability rating, and it is not strange that they played all 16 games thus far. Jaylen still didn't play 8 games with knee injuries, and even when he returns from hamstring injury, he will miss more games than the rest of the year. So player like Time Lord and Romeo Langford have yet to play the full season. They didn't play never the full season. Al Horford is older, so he will miss game. Josh Richardson is unvaccinated, I believe, so he has a much higher chance to catching COVID, taking longer to recover than not being 100% healthy. Hopefully he will get healthy, he will be okay, but just saying. And also other teams have injuries. The Cavs defeated the Celtics without Lauri Markkanen, Colin Sexton, and Kevin Love, and they didn't whine. Almost every time you hear the excuse that the Celtics would have won if player X didn't played, the other team also are dealing with the injury of the key pieces, sidelines. So, to conclude, stop using Celtics fans and media's that excuse, saying Boston would have win more titles in the KG and Pierce era if Garnett doesn't blow his knees is fair. Saying that we would have win the series against the Lakers if Perkins played is fair. KG always was impactful player. Him missing the 2009 playoffs is a fatal crash for the Celtics. Also, Perkins' injury or Davis' injury in the playoffs during the Big Three era, but in the regular season, the players that we are mentioning are not yet Chris Webber, Chris Paul, Anthony Davis. So the players are missing regular season games, and with the current group, I just don't think you should expect the full team, because some of the players just don't have the high availability rating. So either you add more talent, you can still win with the key guys, or replace the injury-prone players with the players with that are not injury-prone. You can have Iron Man like Charlotte version, Kemba Walker, Utah version, Gordon Hayward, etc. So I'm confident that Stevens is seeing this, but when we lose, it's because we shoot poorly. We took bad shoots, too many turnovers, poor catching, or didn't give enough effort. Man up to be better. Using injuries or the referees in excuses is weak. If you see fan or media member using those excuses all the freaking time, then that's a good sign that they are dysfunctional team, and you shouldn't waste time on their views, as they will never be objective. Similar, if someone discounts the Celtics wins because the other team was banged up, that's a good sign that that person is not objective, and you should just dismiss his opinion. That they are auditioning for a spot of attention in the Boston sports station. Wins are wins, losses are losses. The Celtics' current record, number 9 Eastern Conference, 8 wins, 8 losses. Do it better. Stop using excuses. Thank you. I need to do that trend because the men at the medias and Celtics fan bases are getting on my nerves. Daniel.
Well, that was pretty interesting, but of course, we know you when it comes to your issues with Celtics Nation in this situation over the last few years. Um, but I will say this in this situation when it comes to this year's Boston Celtics squad and fans being able to use that excuse. This issue of us going up and down and fluctuating against these teams, whether you can win against a good team like the Lakers one night and then lose against a crappy team like you win last night and we might just come back and lose to the Thunder tonight in this situation, has nothing to do with injuries, ladies and gentlemen. This has nothing to do with Jaylen Brown and Time Lord missing, because we were doing that well before Jaylen Brown's injury. If we weren't doing it, we would have had a much more better record right now than where we're standing at this point in this case. And you guys know that's the truth. Just go back to the schedule in this situation, ladies and gentlemen, and look at what the Celtics schedule was prior to Jaylen Brown's injury. So, yeah, maybe later on this season, you guys, when we see the Celtics, we only got the next game against the Lakers is only about, I think, 3 weeks away, 2 weeks away, something like that. And of course, LeBron James is going to be in much better shape at that point. The rust is going to be, out of his system because, again, he missed 2.5 weeks of action prior to last night's game against us in this case. And hopefully, Jaylen Brown will be back in action at that time, and same thing for Time Lord. So hopefully both teams will be, 100% at that point. That's the game that's going to tell you really whether or not you can truly go toe-to-toe with them. If you lose that game after winning the one last night, what does that tell us, ladies and gentlemen, about this team? That you can beat them last night without Jaylen and without Time Lord, but you got their best player basically also, not 100%, even though he played. But then yet the moment both teams are 100%, you end up losing. That's not going to be a good look, and that's pretty much going to mean this win, you got to basically throw it out the window. Look at the win against Milwaukee not too long ago in this case. Yeah, it goes down in the record books basically as a win against the Milwaukee Bucks, the defending champions, but you were playing against them without Giannis, without Brook Lopez, without Chris Middleton in this case. That's arguably
and Dante DiVincenzo, who is a starter.
So technically, that's four key players, 3 of their top 4 players out in this situation. So no offense, that game as it is, just the fact that Giannis didn't play, you got to toss it out the window in this situation, knowing that he's the number 1 player on that team. So that's the way you got to look at it as of right now, ladies and gentlemen. Until this team gets Jaylen Brown and Time Lord back, that's when we can start looking at them and saying, okay, well, now you got your guys back. Is the trend going to start going upward at that point, and you start beating all the teams you're supposed to beat, on top of being able to beat, let's say at least 50% of the time some of the elite teams in this league? Or is it going to be the way it was back when Jaylen Brown was with us before his injury, where you're beating some of the good teams, but you're also losing to some of the crappy teams as well at that point, which means pretty much you can lose, like you said, Igor, to any one of these teams in the league. You can lose to a crappy team in this situation, like you said, maybe the Hawks. You could lose to a crappy team, from that has the worst record in the league, for all you know. And of course, all our cameras have been going in and out for all four of us in this case. I don't know what's going on with StreamYard tonight, but again, that's just gonna prove it. So I think fans, like you said, Igor, at least for this team, this season, you got to take that thing thus far, that excuse, and you got to throw it into the trash can, burn it up, do something with it as of right now, ladies and gentlemen, because it is not like this Celtics squad was playing like the Golden State Warriors and dominating.
I mean, Danny, I understand the last year. Okay, we were struck with the injuries. But it was the case the year before, and the year before, and this year, and probably this. So, are we going to be the nation of whining fans every single year to cry about the injuries? I mean, come on. You can use it once, but not all the time, right?
Exactly. And again, you lost Brown in that game against Miami, midway to that game against Miami on the 4th of November in this situation. And of course, at that time, ladies and gentlemen, that was 2 days before you lost that game to the Dallas Mavericks in this case, where Marcus Smart, I still feel he cost you that game with that stupid decision of his at the end to foul Doncic in this case. But you were 4-5 after that game, ladies and gentlemen. But prior to that, just before that game against Miami, let's just say you take that game against Miami, ladies and gentlemen, out of the picture, with Jaylen Brown playing a full game pretty much at that point, you were 3-5. So how in the world can you say an injury to Jaylen Brown basically has made you a bad team when you were 3-5 throughout the games he had played up to that point? Because as far as I can remember, unless my memory has gone bad in this situation, and as far as I know, you guys, my dog just died 2 days ago, so my situation of me kind of being mentally out of it has only been 48 hours. So I'm pretty sure my memory has been working fine prior to all of this. In this case, he's only been out since basically the 4th of November. So you had basically those 8 games, all those games before then, he actually played. I don't think there was any injury for him opening night, or against Toronto on October 22nd, or against Houston on October 24th, or Charlotte on October 25th, Washington October 27th, Washington October 30th, Chicago November 1st, Orlando November 3rd. So 8 games, and you ended up losing 5 of those 8 with him playing. So now you cannot use injuries as of right now to say this team has been a bad team thus far due to injuries, knowing that you were already playing crappy with him. You still need to figure out. You still got to work out the kinks. You still got to figure out how are you going to be able to get guys like Schroeder and Smart. Because think about it. I hate to say it, but since Jaylen Brown has been out, guys like Schroeder, guys like Smart have been, and Richardson, they've been playing much more better ever since Jaylen Brown basically got taken out of the rotation, out of the lineup, whatever you want to call it, because of his injury. Because those guys are getting more playing time, they're getting more touches with the ball, and Tatum has been able to basically dominate the game in this situation as the number one option. The moment Jaylen Brown comes back, he's going to want his touches, he's going to want his chances to shoot, And now you're gonna have to take those opportunities away from Tatum again, away from Smart, away from Richardson, away from Schroeder. So Udoka's gonna have a quite the task on his hand, you guys, in this situation. Once Jaylen Brown comes back, and now you gotta wonder: are they gonna go back to the way they were, looking crappy basically to the first 8 games before Jaylen Brown, got injured, or are you gonna basically find a way to make it work and start trending in the upward direction in this situation? If it goes back to basically being a crappy looking team like it was through the first 8 games, the injury excuse goes out the window again.
Excellent stuff, Danny. What do you think, Kevin, about the subject that we are talking, or do you want to talk about something else?
I think I kind of hit on that earlier when they were saying um that the reason some fans were saying that the reason why the Celtics beat the Lakers yesterday is because they're not gelling, and that applies to the Celtics as well. I think that's more of an issue of us losing games than it is players not being hurt or being injured, not playing. Um, when you have a basketball team, if one guy goes down, somebody has to step up. And we've seen Grant Williams play really good. We've seen Mark Smart playing better, making better decisions with the basketball. We've seen Schrader step up. We've seen Al step up in games. Some of the games we win, some of the games we lose. But I don't think you can totally blame it on injury because, like Daniel said, if Jalen plays, then you're taking touches away from other guys now that's been used to shooting the ball a little bit more than they were before. So Udoka has to figure out a way how to make this thing work out, or somebody's gonna be shipped out. It's simple as that. It's just that cut and dry. Um, the the Celtics organization wants to make this Jalen Tatum's Jason Tatum's team, but Jason Tatum is not taking the right step forward to do it. He's doing it on the court, but he's still not the leader. Um, but again, last night I seen him be real aggressive against the Lakers, and once he became aggressive, everybody else became aggressive. So in a sense, he's leading, but he's just not leading by his voice. He's leading by the play on the court, and that's good. If that, I mean, if you want that, if you want him as a leader to do that, that's fine and dandy. And maybe have somebody else be the leader as far as voicing their opinion and things like that. Okay, if it works out for your team and that's how you run the team, okay, fine. But again, we can't blame injuries on every loss we have because the players we're talking about, mainly Robert Williams, he hasn't played a lot. Um, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but every time that dude jumps up in the air, I cringe because I feel like if he don't land flat on his feet, he's going to end up injuring himself. And I really don't think the guy can chew bubble gum and walk at the same time because I think he will fall down or he will blow a bubble and it'll get all in his mustache or in his face because he just don't know how to do it. No point intended, but it doesn't seem like he is that coordinated in my opinion. And I think we drafted him off of talent, or we drafted him off of his potential to be great, which we're starting to see now. But you can't be great if you stay injured all the time. And um, like last year in the playoffs, Kemba Walker was hurt. Kemba Walker was hurt. Williams was hurt. Jaylen Brown was hurt. That's three guys. Do we still beat Brooklyn if those three guys play? I don't think so. I mean, I think we might win maybe two more. We might win 2 games out of the 6, but I don't think we win the series because I think they're overall more. They were overall more talented than we were. You know, but you have people saying if he plays, we would have won. I can see if you say if he played, we had a chance. That I can understand it, but don't sit there and say if he plays, we would have won because you never know the outcome of any game because of injuries. So we as fans, we got to realize that, and we got to leave that alone. And we got to move on. I mean, I know it's part of the game, and again, it affects basketball more than it actually affect any other sport, in my opinion. Because, well, maybe not football, because I think when you lose your left tackle, your backup left tackle might be your right tackle. And if your right tackle never played left tackle, then he actually not a left tackle. He's a right tackle playing left tackle. So I think there's certain positions in the NFL that if you lose a player, it affects your whole offensive coordination. The same thing with your defense. In basketball, you see it more because of the minimum players you have. Boston doesn't have a backup for Robert Williams other than Cantor. And Cantor complained about playing time and whatever, and he got in the game. He did really good when he got in. So I agree with everything Daniel said, everything Igor said. I'm not gonna repeat it, but I totally get where you're coming from. And if you're a truly a Celtic fan, not a Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown fan, if you're a Boston Celtic fan, um, if you know anything about the history of the Celtics, at some point in time, there are some injuries that happen to certain players that cause them not to win titles. Um, you take Perkins getting hurt, you take um, Kevin Garnett getting hurt, who their track record is they've been healthy. If you take Bill Walton in '86 getting hurt, which he's always been hurt, but he came to Boston and found a fountain of youth, so he didn't stay injured a lot. Um, Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish all had bad wills, so they stayed hurt at the end of their career. They win more titles, okay? But they played during the season. They played their 82 games, and when they got in the playoffs is where you saw how it affected them by playing, not having a great bench, not having role players to help them achieve the goals they wanted to achieve. So in a sense, that does you can sit and say it for those instances, but this instance here, I don't think you can say that. So that's my thought right there, guys.
Andy, before giving a word, you're correct. Kevin, I didn't mention Bird. Of course, his career ended because of accumulated injuries, and since 1988, in those teams from 1988 until 91, 92, he was not statistically himself because of the injuries, and certainly if he played more years, if the injuries didn't cut his career short, he maybe would be considered that the greatest player of all the times. But that's another story. We are measuring what he did on the court, and he's still one of the greatest legends of the Celtics and of the NBA. Andy, what is your standpoint of view? My point is that one, your general manager and your scouting team must pay attention to the players that they draft or they bring to the Celtics. Not only what type of player he is on his skill sets, but also on his character. How does he fit into the team? What is is he locker room cancer or not? And finally, his players' availability. Injury history and players' availability. I mean, those are some basic informations that you must collect about the player as a general manager or as a team if you want to acquire some player, right? Or am I wrong, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, so I think that with injuries, it depends on the type of injury. Because, I mean, if a guy just misses a lot of games because he has knee soreness or, a tight hamstring, it's not really a concern to me because that's not necessarily a huge concern because those aren't injuries that necessarily affect the player long term. Same thing, like if a player falls and hurts themselves or sprains their wrist or something like that, or if it's something that can normally be corrected via a surgical procedure with no adverse side effects in the future. I don't concern myself with things like that. The ones that are concerning are the ones that you look at with like MCL, ACL tears. Those we know for a fact, even with modern medicine, they don't always heal fully. And it also depends on the type of player. If somebody like Luka Doncic has an ACL tear that's been surgically repaired, I'm not as concerned about that because Luka has never really been a super athletic player. He's not a player who relies on his athleticism to be great. He relies more on his intelligence, his understanding of the game, and his skill sets. Same thing with KD. That's why a lot of people weren't as concerned with KD coming back from his injury because KD, despite the fact that he's 6'10" and he can dribble and shoot, he's not an uber athletic player. He gets, his elite play really comes from the fact that he has a very unusual skill set at his height. But we don't think of KD as being, incredibly fast or high flying or having any of those real physical attributes that make some players great. Now, if you take somebody like Time Lord, I'm a lot more concerned because Time Lord really relies on that athleticism because, as Kevin alluded to, we're not really convinced that he's the brightest bulb in the package. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed. So he really relies on that athleticism to be very relevant in the game. And I think that if a player like that sustains a serious injury, you're a lot more concerned because if he loses that athleticism, it's a big problem. Now, we saw that with IT too. IT never came back the same. Because of that surgery, because of the procedure he had done, he lost just a little bit of that burst off his first step. And you could see how much of the difference that made in his ability to attack the basket, his ability to stop on a dime and take jumpers. And, he was a player, because of his size, he really relied on that agility and speed. I think, let's say somebody like Luka, for example, or even somebody like maybe like Dame or Steph Curry. Let's say Steph Curry has a similar injury. I don't think it impacts his game nearly as much because his game is much more based on his skill set than his athleticism. So if you're a GM, I think that those are things that you have to be aware of. Obviously, you're aware of the injury history, but you also have to be aware of, is this something that will really affect this player? And that's definitely something to consider. With guys like Langford, Time Lord, I think was a total throw of the dice. So I'm not particularly concerned about that. I don't really view that as a fail. With where we took Time Lord to the draft, compared with his potential, he was a very high upside player that we got pretty low in the first round, or not low, but pretty late on in the first round of the draft. And, he was really in that pick region where you're pretty much gambling anyway. And if you pick a player like Time Lord with a pick like that, he turns out to be an elite player, but he can only play a handful of games, then, so be it. I view that as being a win because it's not like we expended a high lottery pick on him. Now, if you say you took him with like the 1 through 10 overall pick, you'd be a little bit more upset because those 1 to 10 picks are where you're trying to get somebody who's going to be a consistent night in, night out producer. My problem for Boston is, and to the point with Jaylen Brown too. I think we have maybe become too careful with players, and I think some of that maybe fallout from the IT issue because I think. A lot of fans tend to kind of forget quickly, but players don't forget. And the optics for IT was that the Celtics medical staff, and whether you believe IT's story or the Celtics story, that's your decision. But the story that IT put out there was basically that the Celtics medical staff misled him about playing with his injury, and that significantly affected his future career. Now, you can believe that or not. A player can believe that or not. But if I'm a player and I know that my health is direct, because NBA players, much more so than most of us fans, their health is directly linked to their income. So if that's the reputation from one organization is that their medical staff may mislead me to get me to play games and cause me to have a shortened career, then that's going to make me pretty hesitant to sign with that organization because, that's kind of, I think most of us would be kind of in the same boat. If you felt like somebody was going to put your health at risk on the job, I think most of us would probably give that a couple of second thoughts before we took that position over another one. So I've wondered if, it seems to be like since then, the Celtics medical staff has really erred on the side of caution. And that kind of makes sense because we want to avoid similar fiascos, especially with like Jaylen Brown. He's a young player. You don't want to aggravate and turn like a tight hamstring into a torn ACL, MCL, which is possible. So you want to take your caution there, but at the same time, you have to be careful with balancing that out, because I don't know how many of you have ever been managers, either on the civilian side or in the military or whatever, but you ever noticed that the guy who goes on sick call, if he goes on sick call a bunch, it's like a snowball. And like at first he misses one day, then he realizes like, oh, if I go on sick call, I don't have to wake up early to do PT. I don't have to be in the motor pool for 10 hours that day. I can just sit in my barracks room and play video games. And then he does it again. Like a week later, he decides he needs a day off. So he does it again. And then he does it again and again and again. And all of a sudden, instead of that one time that he's sick, all of a sudden, you're like twice a week, this guy's going on sick call. You're saying like, dude, like, what are you? Like a human petri dish? And so that's what you kind of have to be. I think that's pretty, I've seen that on the civilian side too. You're like, once somebody calls out once, all of a sudden they start calling out more and more and more because they realize, wow, I could just get a day off and the boss can't really say anything because it's health related. And so I think you have to be careful with balancing that out and making sure that these guys aren't getting lazy and that they aren't getting into that routine of easy living. So I think, there's definitely a balancing act there. I'm not as concerned about JB because I think JB has a really good work ethic to start with. So I'd be more concerned with, like, say, Time Lord. Time Lord strikes me as like the archetypical guy that he takes a sick day and the next thing you know, he's taking a bunch of sick days to play video games or something like that. He just strikes me a little bit as being that type of guy, kind of. Maybe I'm wrong there. But JB, I'm not as concerned about. I do think that the Celtics have had a lot of players missing games. And some of that, too, is because we put a lot of strain on older players. Al Horford is my age. And, like, I'm not young. I try to think that I'm young, but every time I go and do something like physical exertion that involves working out, I realize that I'm not as young as I used to be. Yeah, Kev realizes the same thing. We're at that age where we realize that our bodies are not getting better. We're starting that downhill slope. And Al Horford's in the same area. And so when you take somebody like that, you're putting them on the court in intense activity. It's not just on the games either, because remember, he's practicing and he's doing all the fitness things that you need to do to maintain the fitness to play those extended minutes in the game. Well, I don't know about Kev, but I know that if you made me play games on an NBA schedule and exert myself, like I keep myself in pretty good shape. I run and I work out, but if you made me do that on the NBA schedule, come the end of the season, my body isn't going to be feeling so good. I'm taking a lot of ice baths when I get home. They're going to need to friggin' deplete the glaciers up north to help me fix myself before each game. And when we do that, we kind of increase the chances for injury because we're bringing in guys who really are at the point where they should be 20-minute-a-night players and resting some back-to-backs, and we're playing them 30 to 40 minutes per night. And that's, so you kind of make a self-fulfilling prophecy there with injuries because, not self-fulfilling prophecies, but you basically kind of dig the hole. And then, like fans are sitting there wondering why we just fell into the hole that we dug in, that we just dug in front of ourselves. So, and that's my view on the injuries. I think A, Boston's medical staff has been more cautious. And B, I think we overwork players that we really probably shouldn't be overworking.
Okay, so if I'm correct, we have like 20 minutes before the beginning of the game. I mean, just to comment a couple of things about Oklahoma game, maybe Danny, or you have something to say. Andy and I mentioned that Oklahoma is not experienced roster. They are, the team that we should beat easily, home or away. But we should not take them for granted. We are not in position to take any team for granted, and we certainly hope that the Celtics will continue. With the good games will translate the good game from yesterday to tonight's game against Oklahoma, and that they will finally be above 500 and tied with Atlanta. We will see. Charlotte is playing with Atlanta. We will see what Atlanta tonight is going to do. And Miami, Washington is playing tonight. Also, Houston, New York from the Eastern Conference. What I can say about Oklahoma and Boston in TD Garden, Massachusetts, Comcast Sportsnet. Team comparisons. So per game, points scored. Boston is 13th, 108 points per game. Oklahoma 30th, last 98. Rebounds per game. Oklahoma, interesting, 48 rebounds per game, number one. Boston is 10th, 46 per game, which is not bad. Assists per game, Boston is 21st in assists per game, 23 assists per game, and Oklahoma 20 assists per 19.8 assists per game, which is 30th. So turnovers, Oklahoma 14 turnovers, 0.3, which is 20th. Boston 14.2, 19th in the NBA, tied. Steals, Boston 8 steals, 12th. Oklahoma 7.3, 22nd. Blocks per game, Boston 7th, 6 blocks per game. Oklahoma 4.6, which is 21st. Points allowed, which is defense. Boston is allowing 106.5 points per game, which is 16th, and Oklahoma 105, which is 12th. So we are 13th. Boston is 13th offense and 16th defense right now in points per game. Oklahoma is 30th offense and 12th defense, better defense than Boston. Field goal percent, Boston 44%, 21st. Oklahoma 40%, 29th, almost last. 3 points percent, Boston 32.5%, 26th. Oklahoma 30%, which is 29th. And finally, free throws, Boston 80%, which is 7th, not bad. And Oklahoma 73%, 26th. Again, we should win this game. It is not going to be easy, and we should not get them for granted. They are young and not experienced. Shea Gilchrist, Alexander, maybe the best player there, but they have young and solid players also. Daniel, something to add about the game or the last two games?
Well, like you said, we now have the information in regards to the starters. Again, it's going to be the same starting lineup as yesterday. So again, Grant Williams starting in place of Time Lord alongside Tatum, Smart, Schroeder, and Horford. This game, and then for Oklahoma City, it's going to be Josh Giddey, Shai Gilgeous Alexander, Lou Dort, Darius Baisley, and Derek Favors. Oklahoma City doesn't have anybody out tonight from their roster. And then, of course, for us, it's Brown and Time Lord. This game, I guess it's going to come out to, I think, for one, how much does Horford have in the tank, you guys, after yesterday's game in this situation, knowing he's an older player? So, he looked good yesterday, but for one, those tanks run out rather more easily when you're an older player in this situation. And we know those tanks are a lot more smaller for somebody like him in this case. So I wouldn't be surprised that maybe there's a minute restriction for Horford tonight in this situation, or if he doesn't go as long as he did yesterday in this case, which could mean that maybe someone like Cantor is going to be much more critical in this game tonight. Obviously, maybe he gets more playing time in this case, or maybe somebody from the further down in the bench in this case gets the opportunity to play. But obviously, Horford, when he in the few minutes he does get, is going to be critical for him to basically establish himself, which means obviously you're going to need a big game from Tatum, Schroeder, and Smart, because they're really going to be the only ones alongside with Richardson to really give you the offensive boost if Horford is not able to play much, because obviously he wasted whatever little energy he had yesterday in that game against the Lakers while trying to stop Anthony Davis. But like you said, Igor, this is not a game, just that you can be overlooking the opponent. We've seen the Celtics do that too many times in this early part of the season, and it's burnt them too many times as well. Just because they're thinking that, like Pierce said Pierce and KG said many years ago in that first season together, 2008, they thought all they had to do was put on their green and white jerseys that say Boston and show up to the arena, and everything else would take care of itself. That's one thing this Celtic team cannot afford to do tonight, is show up at the arena tonight. Think that all they'll do is put on the jerseys and they'll get the W. Just because the Oklahoma City Thunder may not be an elite team does not mean that you can afford to overlook them in this case. You got to take care of your responsibility tonight, and 3 good quarters, you guys, three decent quarters by the Celtics team could get the job done tonight in this situation, and maybe allow the starters to rest a decent amount of time in the fourth. But if you basically overlook them, there's a potential that this team could, give the Celtics a nice punch in the mouth and basically walk out with a W for themselves.
Great stuff, Daniel. I mean, again, something that Andy mentioned, I didn't comment. Is Anthony Davis the best center in the NBA? Absolutely not. Is the best player in the NBA? Absolutely not. I mean, he's talent, but I mean, 2 seasons ago when they were champs, I thought that he should get MVP award in the finals, but right now, absolutely not. Like Andy said, I mean, you have many good centers, like Nikola Jokic, like Joel Embiid, who was second in the MVP race, which is telling you that the centers time, the centers were dominating NBA last year, at least for that award. Or every team has some strong centers. I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge returned from the retirement, and he's playing for Brooklyn very solidly. Griffin is playing center right now, solidly. Miami has Bam Adebayo. Should I mention Vucevic from Chicago, who is part of their big 3 and their number 3 at the Eastern Conference, 11-5. Washington is playing great. And do you know what player is I mean, maybe the best player, despite their having Bradley Beal, the most constant player of the team? Yes, Monte Harrell, the player that they got in the trade with Los Angeles Fakers, if I'm correct. They sent them Dwight Howard, and Monte Harrell is there in Washington and playing great. Charlotte is searching for the good center right now, if I'm correct. Philadelphia having, despite Embiid, I think that another good center is there. I will remember. They have a solid backup center. New York, of course. Yes. Thank you. New York, of course, having a couple of good centers as well, and the power forward is their star player. Cleveland, they miss Love, but they have one of my favorite centers at the Eastern Conference, Jared Allen, and he's playing great. Boston, of course, Boston is designed to be small ball. I will return to Boston. Milwaukee, of course, with Lopez, and always with big lineup. Toronto has some. Siakam returned. He's posting numbers. I love Siakam. Despite Siakam, they are having a couple of. Guys like Boucher, and they have the new rookie that we experienced. Atlanta defeated us because Collins and Capella played great, and Young played good pick and roll with Collins and Capella. I thought Indiana, Miles Turner, etc., etc. And Western Conference, when you look, Golden State Warriors, they have a young center in Wiseman, James Wiseman, who is currently injured. I love the guy. And of course, they have, uh, you know, what is his name? The star power forward center that is key in the small ball, Draymond Green, that is playing great at center position. Phoenix Suns, of course, DeAndre Ayton, upcoming center, their second pick at the draft, if I'm correct. Yes. Utah Jazz, Rudy Gobert, the highest paid center at the world. Dallas, not so dominant centers. Denver, Jokic. Jokic is the best center at the world right now, in my opinion, still. Los Angeles Clippers, they're playing with Ivica Zubac, the man from Adriatic League, and who is rotating there at the center position. My mind stopped, but never mind. Anyway, to conclude the story, I mean, a lot of good centers up there, and the centers are not the main players right now in the NBA, despite last year, of course, the two centers led it in the MVP race, but I mean, by no means I can not say that Anthony Davis is the best center on the world. And of course, I forgot to say, Bam Adebayo from Miami. Bam Adebayo that dominated in the playoffs last year. Heat were finalists, and one of the reasons because Jimmy Butler played MVP level and Bam Adebayo dominated. Now, to conclude the stories about the centers, I mean, you need a center that can, play in the big lineup and be defensive anchor. In our case, Andy is correct. We are designed to play the small ball with Tatum power forward, with Brown, who is more he is more small forward than shooting guard, but he is, of course, small forward, shooting guard, 2 and 3. Tatum is 3 and 4. He got stronger. He can play 4, and Al Horford in today is old, and he is more 5 than 4 because he cannot run the floor, and he used to run as a power forward. So I mean, we are designed to play small ball. At Al Horford, the center trouble is Al Horford cannot play center. As cannot play those high minutes as he used to play, unless he found some fountain of youth, which I deeply believe he did. And I don't think Cantor is the answer for this team, to tell you. I don't think Cantor fits with this team. Grant Williams fits. He is starting in the absence of Al Horford and Robert Williams, as we saw. And Grant is, shaping himself into good role player who can stretch the floor, hit the three, and play the strong defense. I don't like him at 5. He's better at 4, standing in the corner, hitting the three, spreading the floor, cutting to the basket. Useful player. And I mean, I would like another center, but we will see what our management will do. I have another question for Andy. You mentioned that we are designed a small ball team. Then why we are not designed to be the good shooting team? Because I mentioned the statistical information that in shooting threes we are deep down. I will find information in a minute that I read, Andy. Just 1 second. Oklahoma, Boston, and yes. So in 3-pointers, efficiency. Boston is shooting 32.5% for 3. We are 26th, and Oklahoma is 30% for 3, which is 29. So in today's NBA, the 3-point efficiency is very important for success. You cannot succeed in today's NBA if you're not good shooting team. Boston is not designed to be the good shooting team from the 3-point line, Andy. Why is that case? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to run the risk here of triggering Kev, because I'm going to say that Boston's problem is we put too high of a premium on defense and not enough emphasis on 3-point shooting. Basketball, defense is obviously very important. I think one thing that gets overlooked with the Golden State Warriors is they actually had a very good defense in their championship years. They let a lot of points through, but that was because of the number of possessions that their pace generated. But in terms of defense per possession, they were actually a pretty good defensive team. But with that being said, basketball is probably one of the few team sports where good offense beats good defense regularly. And a lot of that's just because of how the games are officiated now. It's gotten so like every single player basically has the no touching rule that applies to quarterbacks in the NFL. Basically if you bump elbows with another player, it's a foul. And if you actually, if your elbow bumps another part of their body, it's going to be a technical probably. I don't even know what they use technicals for nowadays. I mean, you could get teed up for just about anything, it seems, now in the NBA, from, inadvertently bumping into somebody to defending yourself against Marcus Morris. Or was it Marcus or Markieff? One of the two Morris brothers. Or, right down to hurting the officials' feelings. You could get technical for that as well. So when you have over-officiating is what I call it. Generally speaking, over-officiating leads to more emphasis on offense than defense because it's just easier to score if the officials are calling fouls every 2 seconds. Boston's problem is we're still taking, I feel like, almost a more old school approach where we can stack our team with good defenders and win. And the problem is that these defenders are not consistent 3-point shooters. I mean, like Josh Richardson, I know he's been really good for Boston. He has a great plus-minus. He's a good defender. But his 3-point shot has about the same consistency as Marcus Smart's 3-point shot, just minus the nights where Smart somehow manages to drain like 8 3-pointers in a row and nobody knows exactly what happened. Sometimes I think that Marcus Smart fixes games for the Mafia, and that's the only way I can explain his streaky shooting. But I think the other thing that we're looking is, like, if you think about Boston, when was the last time the Celtics invested in bringing in a proven 3-point specialist? Like, the Sixers needed somebody. Like, and we know the Sixers definitely needed somebody. So what did they do? They went out and they got Seth Curry. Now, Seth Curry wasn't a big-name player. I think this is where Boston fans sometimes go wrong. It's like every time I look at the forums, it's all about the big-name players. We want Damian Lillard, or we want Bradley Beal. And we overlook these guys who aren't big-name players but can have a big type of impact on the game. Seth Curry is obviously not Steph Curry, although if you mispronounce his first name, you could confuse people. But he is also one of the most efficient 3-point shooters in the NBA, and he has the same fluid, fast shooting motion. He's a 3-point specialist. The Sixers went out and got him pretty cheap. I don't even remember. What did they give to Dallas? Was that Josh Richardson? Might have been the one they traded to Dallas, I think, for Seth Curry. I might be wrong about that, but I believe that was the trade. Josh Richardson and something else for Seth Curry. It's worked out very well for them. Seth Curry has been exactly what they needed, which is that 3-point specialist. Boston has never really invested in somebody like that. Beyond that, we bill a lot of these guys like Josh Richardson. We say, oh, well, he's a 3-and-D wing. But when you look at Josh Richardson, he's really a lot of D and very little 3. Whereas we're not going after the guys who might be a little bit more expensive, but who are a little bit more reliable on the 3-point line. And then I think the third factor to that, and the third factor to us being a bad 3-point team, is the fact that we don't move the ball. Like we've talked about it all day, every show about the lack of ball movement on this team. So I'm not going to beat that to death. But one of the things that made the Golden State Warriors so great at shooting the 3-ball is that there's always movement. If you ever watch the Warriors play, there is always movement on their side. It's not just the guy with the ball. There's guys off ball, always moving. Screens are being set. And what happens then is that somebody pops loose. They get hit with an open pass. They have an open 3. No, don't get me wrong. Seth, or Steph. Gosh, I'm going to get the Curry brothers mixed up for the rest of the show now. But Steph and Clay are historically great shooters, but their shooting skills are made better by the fact that they're getting more open looks because of the ball movement, the off-ball movement, and we don't have that. So we're not going to shoot well when a lot of our 3-pointers are coming from Tatum and Brown, dribble, moving 3-point shot. Those aren't going to be high percentage looks. We're not going to get good looks when we take the ball up, make one pass, and that guy just jacks up a 3-point shot regardless of whether or not somebody's going to be closing out. And we're not going to be a good 3-point shooting team when Marcus Smart thinks that he's going to have a Steph Curry night and has a Marcus Smart night instead. We're just not going to be a good 3-point shooting team. So there's a lot of factors to go into this. One, and it's just lack of personnel. We don't really have the personnel. And 2, the personnel we do have a handicap by I keep saying it's like a junior high offense sometimes. You're watching your 2 best players play ISO, and then, oh, wow, crap, they just threw me the ball. What do I do? I guess I'll just jack up a 3 because it's probably the only chance I'm going to get all game to shoot a 3-ball. Go ahead, Kev.
Go, Kevin.
Let me ask you a real quick question. And it just went in and you just said something about jacking up 3s. I know what I was gonna say. If you understand the game of basketball, like when I played basketball, I always moved. I always made the defensive player play defense on me. I never stayed in one spot more than a second or 2. I had him run all over the court after me. It got to the point where guys was like, "Yo, can somebody else watch him?" Because he spends too much energy running around the court. And I don't have the energy to do that. And I think what you're saying, what Golden State does do, if Boston would implement that into the offense, they would probably get those shots. Oh, they probably would get the more open shots. But then they're built around the corner 3s. If you think about it, that the corner 3s is what they want to live and die off of. But I totally get where you're coming from when you talk about moving the ball or moving the players around. They're constantly always moving. Nobody's standing still. That irks the devil out of a team. If you got to watch somebody run around for 24 seconds, 23 seconds, you're going to get tired of it. You're going to be like, man, and basically what you're doing is you're making them use energy that they won't be able to use on the offensive side of the ball. You know what I'm saying? So basketball is not that simple. I mean, it's not that hard. Basketball 101 is really easy.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that's a big problem. And that's really all team sports when you think about it. Motion is so important. Like, we think about football. What's a big part of football? It's your pre-snap motion. That's how you diagnose the defense. That's how you pull defense out of position, right? Is you send your receivers and your running backs in pre-snap motion. Same thing with baseball. How do you pull, get the pitcher not to focus? You have your guys moving on and off the bases, right? So motion is really just integral to team sports because somebody has to defend or has to pay attention to the guy who's moving. And if you're paying attention to the guy that's moving, you can't pay attention to the guy with the ball. And similar to you, that's what I used to do when I played basketball when I was a kid, is I did a lot of movement off ball because I'll tell you right now, I had the shooting skills of Marcus Smart about 12 shots of tequila into a long night. So I mean, nobody was worried about me hitting a shot. But I could get layups. If I was within like 4 feet of the basket, I could get a layup. So I would just keep moving it on and off the ball, in and out, in and out. My defender had to follow me in. I mean, he kind of ignored me when I was standing outside. I was giving the Ben Simmons treatment all day long. But I would keep moving in, and forcing them to move in and out. It tires people out. It takes their focus away from the game. It takes other defenders' focus away because, in case you've never listened, we can hear it now. during the pandemic when there was no crowd. You could hear the people running back and forth on the court, all that, the footsteps, and squeaking shoes, and all that stuff. And when you hear that behind you as a player, the natural instinct is to kind of check your six and see what's happening behind you. And that takes your focus off the guy who has the ball. And, I think that's a big issue with Boston. We're never going to be a good three-point shooting team, first of all, with the personnel that we have, and then second of all, until we have that ball movement. And I think that's what we're really missing when we want to play small. We wanted to be the Golden State Warriors of the East, but we missed the fact that what made Golden State great was the ball movement and the off-ball movement that generated those open shots that allowed them to be that elite three-point shooting team. Like, and granted, nobody questions Steph and Clay can both ISO very well. Considering how good he is at isolation basketball, you don't see a lot of Steph Curry playing ISO ball. And when he does, it's usually in an important moment, and then he'll go into ISO because, it's Steph and you want him taking that shot in important moments. But I think people don't realize that. Whereas on Celtics, Jaylen and Jason have a tendency, that's their go-to is ISO. I'm going to bring the ball up and go ISO. If I can't ISO into a shot, then maybe I'll think about passing it. And that really has to change. I think if that changes and we see more passing, and we see more of our young guys moving off the ball, like Igor and Danny said earlier, these are young players. They have no excuse to be tired. They should be all over the place off the ball. If we do that and we force these teams to move with us and check us, it may not be in the first quarter or the second quarter, but third, fourth quarter, we're going to start to see that defense break down. We're going to get those open shots. And when you have these close games that are within 10 points, those 2 or 3 open three-point shots you generate and knock down makes the difference. And I think that's something we really have to see on this team beyond any of the big trade scenarios or, I call the trade fantasies. I think that's what we really need to see is we need to see this team play sophisticated basketball, where you have that off-ball movement and you have the ball flying around the different players.
I want, okay, my camera is on. I want to just add on your story, Andy, that I think that we are giving as a team emphasis on certain type of players. What Danny Ainge and his staff was drafting defense first guys or athletic abilities. Remember when we drafted Jaylen Brown, he was known as a player who has athletic abilities to go coast to coast or to run the floor or to defend the floor first, and he was not good in shooting, or he was average in shooting. So we draft the players who can play defense, who are tall as a wings or undersized guards that can play defense. And about the shoot, we are hoping that by time they will develop average or above average shoot. I don't think it's good tactics, especially if you're trying to play the small ball, like you mentioned. And you mentioned the good selection and the good the team that is consisting of the good role players. You and I, Andy, discussed about Philadelphia. Philadelphia is not having Ben Simmons right now. They are not having Embiid, their top 2 stars. And guess what? They are crushing. They crushed Denver Nuggets the other night, 103-89. And they have the starting lineup consisting of Tyrese Maxey, Seth Curry, Tobias Harris, George Niang, and Andre Drummond. Bench, Isaac Joe, then Charles Beasy, who are young players, unproven, and Shake Milton and Furkan Korkmaz. What I'm trying to say, the guys like Tyrese Maxey, Seth Curry, Tobias Harris, and Andre Drummond, those 4, they're carrying the team. They have the size in the paint still, with Andre Drummond, of course, but they are, Charles Beasy's backup center, who is,
Well, again, it's it's still early. We're gonna have to wait and see towards the middle of the season. We're still dealing with definitely the same issues we're dealing with now. Where the team basically seems like they can get up for some games, but completely look like they are, on a different planet the next in this situation. Then obviously Brad Stevens is gonna have to make a decision and possibly consider some of these guys having to be dealt away in this case. Because, one thing we have said overall is that you got to consider, your 2 best players, the fact that their contracts are going to expire at some point, and what's going to happen when you're going to have all these other teams wanting to basically come after them. Remember, it's all about money, ladies and gentlemen. This is not the NBA of the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, where you have a situation where players are more loyal to the brand and to the logo on the front of their jerseys in this situation, and to the city. You don't find that much anymore in any sport in this case. You look at the players in Boston. How many guys can you say we're like that? Think about it. The last one you can say is like that right now in the Boston area might be the ones in the Boston Bruins jerseys right now in this situation, like Patrice Bergeron, for example, guys like that. After that, it's gonna be tight to figure out which one will have that type of loyalty in this situation, that's willing to stay inside Boston despite how much money the team is willing to give them. If you don't feel that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, if they're given the right type of situation to go to a certain city, but also get the right pay in this situation as well, then you need to especially you got to reconsider, especially if you got to think about Jason Tatum again. If you want to think about the certain city, that's the key. I don't think Jason Tatum would leave you for just any city, But if you allow him to leave you to go to the city that has the specific team that he's willing to go to, let's say the team you just beat last night, then you got problems. Again, the Lakers, it's going to take time for them to open up the cap space, ladies and gentlemen, obviously. But you got to worry. Those are things you're going to have to worry about because, again, this specific version of the NBA, you do not have many players that are willing to stay. Look at Giannis. Giannis just got that big major deal in this situation, and already there's now rumors of him being willing to leave at this point and wanting to be traded if things basically don't shape up. Obviously, you just won the championship, but obviously, he wants more. And of course, that's the way you want to be, you guys. You want to keep winning the championships in this situation. That's what it's all about. But if things don't continue to trend in the right direction, you got to start worrying about either your superstars leaving or him wanting other players dealt away in this case. So that's how I kind of look at it, you guys. We got two players who right now you haven't won a championship with. They're going into their prime years, but your prime years can only last so long in this league in this case. And what happens once the prime years are gone? You got to look for the next group of guys who are going to basically be in their prime. You do not want to lose the opportunity the way you lost to Garnett and Pierce and Allen because of injuries and other opportunities and you not being able to get the right roster around them in this case. And at the same time, you do not want to let it slip out of your hands because of the fact that you had them, but you let them leave to other teams and you couldn't get nothing in exchange for them because basically you felt they were too loyal. And basically you were too foolish to think like that. So I say, Igor, that's what we got to look at. Wait for the rest of the season, and if things basically don't start going in the right direction, start trending upward at that point, then you got to start making some hard decisions. Not so much against Brown and Tatum, because obviously, we got to start thinking about the fact that you could get a max contract slot and could get another superstar to come this way. So I would say wait for that opportunity, and if you can't get a third superstar to work with Brown and Tatum and get you to an NBA championship, then that's when you start thinking about maybe dealing one of those two guys in this situation. So before that, you got to start thinking about dealing the rest of the guys around those two.
Totally agree. Okay, Andy, final words. The game is on with Oklahoma, so we will leave you to watch the game, of course, soon.
Yeah, I think I think at the end of the day, just to kind of wrap everything up, the key issues with this team, I don't think have really changed at all. We're still waiting to see that consistency. Hopefully they win tonight against OKC because that would kind of go some way improving that. But even if they win tonight, I mean, like you can't see them win 2 games in a row and say, oh, they fixed their consistency issue. We need to see it over the course of, 10, 15, 20 games. They can play consistently good basketball. And I don't think that that's changed at all. I think it's really just kind of looking at the same issues, and every now and then we find other different reasons for it. But at the end of the day, we're still looking at the same issues. We still have the same problems with roster construction, and it's easy to get caught up in a single game because a guy has a hot night shooting or a couple of hot nights. But that's not fixing the problem. That's getting lucky with somebody getting hot from beyond the arc. So I think that it'll be interesting to see how the season goes. And with Stevens as the new GM, I'm interested to see if we make any moves, if we actually make moves to fix the roster construction, or if we're going to be stuck watching more of the same.
Excellent stuff. Kevin, final words?
I want to see Gino tonight. Damn it. I want to see Gino.
Great stuff, guys. Okay, so we will see the show maybe next week. We will let you know. I hope that you enjoyed as much as we enjoyed, guys. Pleasure as always, and hope that we will make a winning streak the next week. Hope that we will talk about the winning streak. Okay, the show is over, and let's see Gino tonight. Let's defeat Oklahoma, like Kevin said. So until the next time, go Celtics. Danny?
Okay, so again, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk to you hopefully next Saturday night. Again, the Celtics currently up 11-8 on the Oklahoma City Thunder. 5:32 left in the first quarter. So enjoy the game, and we'll talk to you next Saturday.